Okay, so welcome back. In today's lesson, I want to talk about the administrivia. So it's the administrative part of this lesson. The concept that we are now getting into might be a bit intimidating for those who are starting in programming. However, this must not stop you from trying your best. I know there are a couple of words or a couple of vocabulary that you might find a bit intimidating, but that must not stop you from learning. The most important thing is for you guys to understand the concepts that I'm teaching here. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's jump into today's lesson. Today we're going to look at what we call the for loop. The for loops are used to iterate over a given sequence, such as lists and strings. So you might have a few questions. What is a sequence? What is iteration? What is looping? Okay, those are the important, parts in this definition. So a sequence is just a collection of items. That's number one. So a string is a collection of letters or a collection of characters, right? A list is a collection of items surrounded by square brackets. Iteration means repeating something over and over again. So that's what we call iteration. So when we iterate over something, it leads us to a loop. So once I have something repeating itself, this creates what we call a loop. So what we're doing with the for loops is to iterate over individual items of a sequence. Okay, so let me get into my Sublime text so that I can explain this. So right here we have a list called groceries, and we have mentioned before about accessing individual items in this grocery list. We could use this syntax, which is groceries, and then we use square brackets, and then we can use indexing. So save and run this. You see down here I have bread, but however, let's say I want to access all the elements at once. So should I use this same style? I could just go on and duplicate this a couple of times and then change the indexing, like 1 here and then 2 here, and then go down doing the same thing until I finish. And then if I save and run this, you see down here I have all the elements that are in this list, right? So I have all the individual elements. Let's say I wanted to perform an action. So that means I have to come up here and probably I want to add a pound sign or a hash sign. So I have to individually and manually come here and add a pound sign to each and every element. This is a bit tedious, as you guys can see. There is a lot of work going on. Or I could individually get inside here, put a hash. This could be time consuming. If, for instance, I have a list that has 1,000 items, 1,000,000 items, you don't want to do this manually, okay? Trust me, you don't want to do this manually. So there is a better way of doing this, okay? So that's where we need what we call the for loops. So I will start with the construct or the syntax of the for loop. The for loop starts with the for keyword, and then obviously this is a list of groceries, so I want to call these items. This is a variable. It can be anything, it can be any name. For items in the sequence. So what's our sequence? The sequence that we have is the groceries, right? And then we follow this with a colon, okay? So if I get to the next line, this is going to be indented, right? If it doesn't automatically indent, you have to leave 4 spaces from the margin. And so I can do anything now. Now I want to print the items. So if I save and run this, you see down here, I achieve the same result with 2 lines of code using a for loop, right? I've iterated. This is iteration. So it goes to bread, sugar, butter, salt, and meat. So imagine if I had 1,000 elements or 1,000 items in this list, then this will be super fast, right? Just 2 lines accessing all the elements. So if I want to perform some action to these items, I could just add my hash, save and run. As you guys can see, boom, so sweet. so simple, so straightforward, and so easy. Okay, so this is why the for loop is really, really important. So to run over again the construct or the syntax of the for loop, you use the for keyword, a variable. This name could be anything, and then in the sequence that you're trying to go through, right? This sequence could be a list sequence, it could be string sequence, it could be anything. There are quite a number of sequences in Python, but in this instance we're looking at lists. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So let's go back and try and answer the question that follows. To answer the question that follows, it says fill in the blanks to create a valid for loop. So straightforward, you start with the for keyword, variable in this instance the variable is L, right? And then we have the colon, and then we can print the L. So check it out, boom, that's the correct answer. All right, so in our next lesson we're going to look at for loops in a string sequence. All right, so if you have any questions, any queries, be free to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll find time to answer to your to your questions, whatever you might want to know. Okay, so I want to thank you for your time. I hope to see you in our next video. For now, I'm out. Bye bye.